just...
He's a friend of my pastor.
Okay.
Yeah, he used to be a pastor up in somewhere in Pennsylvania, Daybreak, but he left the church.
Started.
Yeah, it should be on.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, good to go.
All right. Let's get this set up here. So I'll just have to talk a little loud for the mic to pick up.
Okay.
This is very sensitive, so whatever this won't pick up, that will definitely.
Okay, awesome.
We'll try to use audio for both, hopefully.
You want me to do it as well?
Sure.
All right. Or do you want to do it?
Who opened the last one? You did.
Okay, you open this
All
one.
right. Sounds good. So is there anything specifically you want to get into?
No, I mean, yeah, obviously we're going to talk about the book, and subjects, waiting and why.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk a little bit about City Fam toward the end, if you could.
Super.
Because it's definitely what's made it possible for me to wait, having community.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll just leave it up to you guys.
Okay.
All right. Let's get this started. Perfect. All right. What's up, everybody? You are listening to another episode of the Men and Meats podcast. We are just two best friends hanging out, discussing what it really means to live for Christ. Brought to you by your boys Danny and Freddie. This week we have a special episode. We are here in Baltimore, Maryland, interviewing the one and only Rob Kowalski. I hope I'm saying that right. CEO of City Fam and author of the book Why Waiting Works. We're here to talk about his new book. But Rob, before we get started, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah.
It's great to be here.
Yeah.
Great to be on.
Yeah.
Welcome, man. We're excited.
We are excited. But before we get started and get into the book material, can you just give us a little backstory? I know we listened to a podcast about you, and your backstory is really what opened us up to, wanting to come down here and get into your book and talk about City Fam and kind of learn more from you. So could you just, go through your testimony?
100%.
Tell
Love
us how God brought you here.
Yeah. So for most of my adult life, I was a nightclub promoter and a stripper. At least throughout my 20s, I was running nightlife in Baltimore and a little bit in DC. And prior to that, I had been I actually still was at the time a stripper. I was in the phone book. I worked for every entertainment agency. Probably did a couple thousand private shows in the area. Worked with a group, but I was really just pretty much the worst person you can imagine. I mean, I was very popular and I liked being me a lot, and life was easy and fun. But when I was 27 years old, I got called. I didn't even know that God was real before that. I had some exposure to it. I went to a couple Christian schools. I got kicked out of them, actually. I got expelled from a couple.
Okay.
My grandmother took me to church when I was a kid, but my mom really wasn't there, so it didn't stick necessarily. But so, as an adult, I would see people praying, and I just, I didn't know if anybody was really listening. I wondered, and that was about as much thought as I gave to God. And but when I was 27, he called me. I had a really radical experience. I was in Cancun, Mexico for spring break with friends partying like rock stars, and God called me. And that was the first time in my life I heard his voice. I did the most radical 180 a person can do. I literally broke up with my girlfriend. I quit stripping. I quit promoting. I started going to church on Sundays, leading Bible study. And I went from having a really active social life to having nothing to do anymore because I had to cut off all those old friendships. And I was looking, looking for a group of people, trying to find, like-minded people. I mean, honestly, religious people were a little weird to me. And I was like, yeah, I just didn't get, so I was looking for a group of people that were headed in the same direction that I could relate to, and they just weren't out there. So I ended up staying in a lot, going to the movies or whatever on the weekends, trying to avoid trouble, basically. And the difference, I think, in my story was God really told me early on, I'd never been in love, and honestly, I still haven't. But he told me, if you wait, I will bring your soulmate to you. So instead of dating like everyone else does when they get to this place of loneliness that I got to, I didn't date. I waited, and it compounded all the feelings. And so after 6 years, I backslid. You know, basically, not even intentionally. I just wanted to give myself some freedom. I started going into the bars again a little bit because that's where I knew people were that were like me, and where I could have a good time. And you know, being in that environment on a consistent basis, or really almost any basis, you pick up the habits of the people around you, and over time my life spiraled down to the point where I became pretty much the same person I'd been before, except I knew better, and it was a lot worse. So in 2011, after making a good mess of things, I rededicated my life to God. I got sober a few months later. I went through the exact same thing though over the next year, where I was staying in every night by myself, watching Redbox movies because I didn't know what to do or who to do it with. Yeah. And after about a year of doing that, I thought, man, there's got to be a better way, because if this is what you have to go through to change, you know, not just come to Christ, but let's say just get sober or whatever positive change you're trying to make. If this is what you have to go through, no one will do it. Like, cause I was so determined, and I'm good at making friends, and I still barely made it. So I thought, you know, this is a problem that needs to be fixed, and you know, with the help of some friends I made at church, actually, we started a group called City Fam. Although it's not faith-based, we do a lot of social stuff, and you know, we can maybe talk about that later, and we do a lot of service projects, but it's really what made it possible for me was that community that I found through church to make the changes. Yeah, so, and then here I am.
There you go. That's awesome. That's awesome. So we got a little bit about your testimony, and so can you just tell us a little bit more about what caused you to want to wait, and then from that experience, why did you feel the need to write a book about it?
Sure. So initially, it was purely selfish.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, because God spoke to me that, you know, if you wait, I'll bring the right person for you too.
Yeah.
So I thought, I remember thinking this distinctly, and I probably even prayed it and said, okay, God, I'll wait. Yeah. But you better hurry, because you know I can't wait long.
Right. Oh yeah.
Mind you, this was 18 years ago.
Oh no.
So,
yeah.
so he didn't listen to that one.
Yeah.
So I waited, and I waited, and I waited, and it turned into 6 years.
Yeah.
You know, and that's when it was I remember it was the first time I messed up. I was out with some friends at a bar drinking, and I broke my streak. I slept with a girl inadvertently, and after I did that, it was like that badge that I had of I've been abstinent for the last 6 years. Yeah. That was gone, and it became easier to make mistakes.
Yeah.
I was actually trying to make a difference from the inside, so it was a perfect storm for disaster, because I was in that environment again. I'll tell you a funny story. I had an idea for City Fam 12 years ago, and I was leading a small group. I started promoting again, started putting on social events. It was party promoting, which was not a good idea in hindsight. Yeah. But I literally had the hottest nightclub in Baltimore on Saturday nights. It was a place over here in Canton called Casbah. And I had a small group in the nightclub on Thursdays. We were reading Purpose Driven Life, and we would go out and feed the homeless.
Okay.
Great club. Yeah. We would feed the homeless after the group, and anybody that came on Thursdays, I would let in for free to the nightclub on Saturday, and I didn't have to pay for the cover or anything. I wanted to reward people for making good decisions. Yeah. So the small group took off. It literally went from like 8 people to like 50. Yeah. I had, drug dealers and strippers coming to the small group, and I was like, "This is awesome. Yeah. These are my people." Yeah. And it was so edgy though, and I was still drinking. That's when I started messing up. Okay. I slept with a girl in the group. Yeah. About a month later, I slept with a second girl. I tried to keep it quiet because I knew how bad it looked. People found out, judged me harshly. I stepped down from leadership, and once I stepped down, now here I was back in that scene, popular, broke my streak. Yeah. And things just got out of control. So for me, it got so dark from 2006 to 2011 that when I rededicated, it was like, I know how hard it's going to be, but it's better than that. Yeah. It's better than that life. So again, kind of for selfish purposes, I had a really great group in 2006. Yeah. When it first started, we would go to birthday parties, and you know, we socialized together, we volunteered together. It was the start of this awesome thing, and the devil got me. You know, so, and it got to the point in 2011 where I didn't even have any good relationships. I would go to the club, the last club that I promoted, and I was in a popular club, like I was a popular guy in a packed club of people, and I didn't have any real friends there, like nobody that really knew me.
Yeah.
And I remember how lonely that felt. So when I rededicated, you know, it was kind of selfish that I wanted to get back to that place, because I thought if I could only do it again, how much differently I would have done everything.
Yeah.
And now, of course, God's given me a chance to do it again, and it's like, I feel like it's like Adam being put back in the garden, where sometimes I want the apple. I do. It looks good, but I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
Because I know where it goes, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. So then from, you know, when you turn your life around and, you know, coming back from, something that you said earlier, it's so interesting how you can be surrounded by so many people and yet feel so alone.
yes.
And that's probably the hardest thing about, you know, a Christian walk. Sometimes it can be very, very lonely.
Yes.
And so then, how did you go from turning it around and being in this lonely place by yourself and thinking about writing this book, Why Waiting Works? And what were you focusing it on?
Well, I didn't need the book. You know, I didn't have any idea for the book until just recently. So when I rededicated my life, I got plugged in. I had been going to a church. I really got involved. I was dating a girl that was a stripper not long before that. Very just tumultuous relationship, and you know, we were having sex, and God started convicting me of the sex, and I thought, you know, of course the enemy came in right away and was like, you can't stop having sex with her, because if you do, you'll want to have sex with other girls, and that will be worse. Of course, it made sense, and I thought about it, but I decided to be obedient, and I thought, and you know, I wasn't sure if I was in love with her, and this is something I'll talk about in the book. I had very strong feelings for her, and I thought I might be, but so I prayed, and I said, God, look, you know, and me and this girl had broken up probably 20 times up until this point, but we would literally get back together the next week.
Yeah.
So it was crazy. But at the time, we had a good run. We were on a good stretch. She was being really good to me. I thought, maybe I am in love with this girl. And God started convicting me of the sex, and I said, okay, God, look, I'm going to try this your way. And if I'm in love, I want you to convince me, and I'll marry her. But if I'm not in love, I want you to convince me of that, and make sure we stay broken up, because obviously we can't do it ourselves. And I went to her and I told her, I said, look, I don't know if we're built to last. I said, but I think the way to find out is we're going to stop having sex. And if we're in love, then let's just get married. But if we're not, let's stop wasting each other's time. And she kind of reluctantly agreed. We cut off the sex. And to be honest, we still had sex a couple more times, but God knows I was trying. But that pause gave us such clarity, and a few weeks later we broke up. And she literally got pregnant by her neighbor maybe within a month, and now she lives in Florida with her new baby. And we're great friends. And I look back and I'm like, thank you. Because I could have wasted years or maybe even my whole life with the wrong person, because the sex clouds your judgment. And the mass red flags. You know, so for me, once I cut off that with her, and I was getting more involved at my church, and I was really liking myself again, I knew I couldn't talk out of both sides of my mouth. You know, because I'm like, what am I going to, you know, I tried it already, where I was leading a Bible study and I'm just messing up, and you know, God doesn't allow secret sin, in my opinion. He brings that stuff front and center.
In the dark comes the light.
Absolutely. So once I cut it off with her, you know, I thought, this is how I want to live, and now I'm very transparent with everything about my past, about everything I do, and that transparency is the one thing that keeps me out of trouble. Not the one thing, but that's probably the big thing. Because I know that if I do something, I'm gonna have to tell on myself in order to keep this feeling that you know, that I have right now, because it's freedom. Or I'll have to lie and lose the freedom, which I'm not willing to do. So, which means I can't mess up. You know, so it means going to bed depressed sometimes, going to bed angry, you know, whatever, going home angry, and sometimes it's like that, but sometimes it's, you know, it's great waking up in the morning and feeling completely different the next day too.
That's very true.
So
Awesome.
As you were talking, I was thinking about, I think our testimonies are similar. I just kind of have a frat boy experience, so very different in a certain way. But for guys I try to talk to, and they say, well, why would you want to test a car before you drive it, right? And that's their mentality. They can't see like the damage that having sex before you're married can cause to, spiritually, emotionally, all of that. What would you say to those guys?
That's the number one argument that right?
Yeah.
So, yes, I wouldn't buy a car without test driving.
Yeah.
Number one, but people aren't cars. So
Right.
this is what happens, just on a very practical, and people just don't think it through. First off, from a guy's perspective, I say this to friends: when a woman wants to give you sex, it's like free money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, why am I saying no to this again?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's a trap that we don't realize.
Yeah.
So my first girlfriend, I had sex with her on the first date.
Yeah.
We spent 5 years together.
Yeah.
And then looking back, I was definitely not in love.
Yeah.
But the way God wired sex is it connects you. Right? And the more times you have sex, it's oxytocin. It's biology.
Mm-hmm.
No, people can't even argue with it because all you got to do is Google it.
Yeah.
It's like glue.
Yeah.
It sticks you together, and if you have sex, first off, you don't know who lives inside that tent. You see somebody hot, you're like, ooh. And then next thing you know, you have sex. You could very easily get stuck with the wrong person.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the couple at the diner that doesn't talk to each other?
Yeah.
Because who knows what their start was?
Yeah.
Maybe they had sex early and
Yeah.
they spent their whole life together with the wrong person just because he wanted some ass.
Yeah.
Excuse my language. But seriously, that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
So you got to be smart though,
Yeah.
and that's why when I talk about the divorce, first off, the average amount of dates that a person goes on in the United States is 3 right now before having sex.
Okay.
And the divorce rate's 50%.
Yeah.
And what percentage of the people, the other 50% that stay married, are happy? Because I'm guessing it's not that high.
Yeah.
So that means if you do it the way everybody else does, which is having sex quickly based off of physical attraction, you're going to get what everybody else has got, which is either divorced or unhappily married. And everybody that I talk to, not everybody, broad statement, but a lot of people say sex stops after you get married.
Yeah.
Right? And that's true if you do it the way that everybody else does,
Yeah.
because you probably aren't connected deeply with that person. If you do it the way I'm suggesting, probably that you're suggesting, is the sex starts when you get married,
Right.
which sounds pretty good to me,
Right.
You know. So for them, I would suggest, just being smart, thinking about it through, and it's such a trap, and it's so hard to say no to because the books I've read, it's the strongest of all desires. But if you can take that energy and channel it into something else, then you can really, you can reach your dreams faster. If it wasn't for me being abstinent, I wouldn't be doing this podcast right now. I wouldn't have started the nonprofit that I started. I wouldn't have written the book.
Yeah.
It's opened so many doors for me, making that one decision. But you got to be smart.
Yeah. That's very practical advice for guys who just feel like, nah, I can't. This is something I can't overcome. This is something I can't let go. This is just who I am. That's practical.
Let's say this is another situation I pose to people is, we're all so physically wired, but haven't you ever met that girl, or maybe for any women listening, that guy that at first you're like, ooh, they're cute, right?
Yeah.
But then for whatever reason you don't date, you get to know them. A few weeks later, a month later, you're like, yeah, they're good looking, but not for me, right?
Yeah.
We all have.
Oh, yeah.
But imagine that you slept with that person.
Yeah.
That you started dating and then you slept with them. And then now, after you slept together, she checks her phone and you're like, who the hell is she texting right now? And then because you all of a sudden start feeling jealous over her.
Yeah.
And she wasn't even the person that you're supposed to be with, but you had sex early, and then next thing you know, years go by, or she gets pregnant, or a million other scenarios happen, and your life gets drastically affected because you couldn't control your appetite.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
There's that verse, I'm sorry, one more thing.
No. Hey, this is good stuff.
Is that, the Bible says, let none of us be godless, none of us be sexually immoral or godless like Esau. We traded his birthright for a bowl of stew.
Yeah.
And you think about that, Esau was hungry. He came in, he's like, something that would have lasted him his entire life, his birthright, and blessed him. He gave up for a bowl of stew, and guess what? He was
Yeah.
hungry a few hours later.
Yeah, man.
And it's like, so we take that sex,
Yeah.
and then guess what? We're horny a few hours later,
Yeah, man.
and we traded something that like our soulmate that would have lasted us our entire life
Yeah.
for something that satisfied us for a few hours.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's true because God put parameters on this thing,
Yeah.
and we're afraid. We're afraid of doing it a different way and getting stuck with someone that,
The rest of your life.
you know, for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And a lot of people get scared by that.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, you know, some nights I might go to bed depressed, or I might,
Frustrated.
you know, be frustrated. That's real.
Yeah.
That's real.
Yeah.
But you know, there's joy in that suffering.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing it in Christ, you know, if you know that you're taking those steps, you can see past the pain.
Yeah.
And know that you're doing it for the reasons that God has put marriage in place.
Yeah.
You know, just because someone's a Christian doesn't mean that they're your soulmate. Just because someone's pretty doesn't mean that they're your soulmate.
Preach.
And you
Preach.
could get stuck with the completely wrong person
Yes.
if you aren't willing to take those steps.
Yes.
And it might be harder,
Mhm.
and it's going to take more out of you being vulnerable,
Mhm.
and that's probably the hardest part for me. But
Yeah,
you know, vulnerability is scary.
Yeah.
But taking that step is hard. So, you know, and I don't want to like misconfuse anything. So I was looking at your description for your book. It's a more practical approach
Yes.
to abstinence. So I just, you know, you're a Christian. You have this Christian worldview. What made you focus more on the practical steps
Right.
of abstinence?
I did that because I feel like there's not enough of it out there. You know, a lot of the books I read, you know, Josh Harris's book about I Kiss Dating Goodbye, and it's not so much about sex. I really do like that view though, and
It is a good book.
It is. It's very good, and I take that view as far as, you know, just keep people in the friend zone and see where it goes. But as far as the sex, any book that I've read on it, or even articles, it usually comes from a very biblical perspective,
Yeah.
and that doesn't resonate with people all the time.
Yeah.
Where you're like, hey, the Bible says so, or you're breaking a commandment, or the marriage bed should be kept sacred, or whatever else. So I just want to say, look, this is real, and you know, having lived at these polar extremes I have.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone can explain it quite like me, because
Yeah.
I can tell you all the reasons it's not working for you, like all the ways, and it didn't make any sense to me when I stopped either. I did it for selfish reasons,
Yeah.
because I thought God would give me my soulmate,
Yeah.
and I didn't think it made any sense. I thought sex is like a massage, if it feels good, do it. Why would I wait? That's a dumb idea.
Yeah.
I wrestled with all these things, but after doing it a while, I started to understand it. And now I think I understand it better than anyone. So I really wanted to, 'cause I have a lot of friends that just, you know, they're not people of faith,
Yeah.
but they, you know, I want them to understand there's value in it, even if it makes them wait one more date
Yeah.
than they would have waited otherwise. And in that time period, they realize this person's batshit crazy,
Yeah.
or whatever
Yeah.
and they figure out, and they avoid a pregnancy or years of wasted time with the wrong person or whatever. Then to me, that's a win. Maybe they didn't wait till marriage. Maybe they waited a little bit longer than they normally would have,
Yeah.
and avoided some pain.
Yeah.
That to me is good. But yeah, I just wanted to make it practical, because I think that even believers, even Christians, they don't understand it, you know. So I wanted to say this is how it plays out in real life,
Yeah.
you know, and just, you know, try to be very practical about it.
Yeah, yeah. I think your experience, because you do have some, you know, individuals who may, you know, say it's good to wait, but maybe that was exactly what they did. They married, they had sex, they did it the right way, so they don't have that experience. They
Right.
just know biblically this is what you're supposed to do. But
Yes.
you have lived this experience. You have seen the ups and downs of it. You have seen the unfulfillment in it, and so you can speak to that
Yes.
from a very, very open point. I think that's what people need to hear. Like, bro, I've been out there. I've
Right.
done it. I've slept with people. I've gone through the pain, and it's just not worth it. You just have to wait.
I look at it as almost like, you know, someone that used to be obese.
Yeah.
And if you say, look, I can tell you that when you run up the stairs, you
Yeah.
can't breathe.
Yeah.
Or you can't even make it up the stairs. Like,
Yeah.
I can give you all the analogies
Yeah.
of why it's not working, because I was the obese guy.
Yeah, exactly.
So I know them, and people will go, yeah, he's right.
Right. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to make it practical.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it also opens up a unique opportunity where you're speaking to both groups of individuals.
Exactly.
You're speaking to believers and you're speaking to non-believers.
Exactly.
And I know, you know, like if you're looking at it from a non-Christian perspective, why would you pick up a book about Christian dating? Why would you pick up a book
Right.
about, you know, the biblical view on marriage and dating
Yeah.
when I don't believe that?
Yeah.
You know, you're opening up your book to both groups of people, and like City Fam, you're bringing everybody together. Yeah, I'm gonna segue there. You know, you're bringing everybody together, and you're actually teaching these Christian principles more from just a practical perspective.
Yeah.
And you know, like bringing people in for a social gathering, it's opening them up to the ideas and the ideals, and bringing them into this knowledge of what God has designed marriage for, and maybe pointing them in the right direction, that God can use that to change their heart and point it back to Christ.
Right.
Yes.
Not just in relationships, but in practical, like, world experience.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
that's awesome.
It is.
That's really what makes life really rich is relationships.
Yes.
You know, I've done a lot of reading and research preparing the book, and it's shockingly low how much time we spend having sex. It's only 0.5% of the time.
Oh wow.
Right? So if you think about that, even if you're like twice as the normal, that you're still only at 1%.
Yeah.
So that would mean that there's 99% of the time that you're not having sex, that you need to just do things with people, right?
Yeah.
And if you have good relationships, like, you know, it requires a little work. It requires a little sacrifice, showing up for people.
Yeah.
You know, and for me, that's what that community has offered me. It's just, I don't even almost, not to say I don't almost have time to miss sex, because of course I still do sometimes.
Yeah.
But I'm so busy, you know, enjoying life with people around me, and then you start to look at, especially the females in your life, and you're like, you know, I wouldn't want to burn that relationship over something that, you know, so meaningless or short. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd rather have a long-term friend than a short-term sex partner, is what I say.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's real. And just taking that, you know, looking at women as our sisters in Christ, like looking at them and valuing them more than just that moment that you can get from them. I think it's really important when you step back and say, okay, God, like, yeah. I was gonna go too deep. Yeah, man.
Yeah. So could we just for a second talk about City Fam?
Yeah,
We brought it up
That's
briefly,
right.
but you know, just for people who don't know, what is City Fam? What's your goal? What's your vision for it? Maybe how does the book lend to that?
Yeah. So full transparency, I had strong opinions on sex before, you know, for the last few years. And anytime I talked about it, you see how fired up I get.
Yeah.
So I would get super fired up about it. I'm so passionate, and I'm, you know, and I could tell you all the reasons why. And almost people that don't believe it would go, they couldn't even argue with me, right? So, I really wrote the book because I wanted the opportunities to talk about City Fam, because it's made such a huge impact on my life and the lives of others in it.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, you know, like I said, when I rededicated, I went through that period where I was renting a lot of movies on Redbox. I had really one good Christian friend, a guy, Billy Lofton. He's the co-founder, and we would be looking at each other every weekend, going, "So what are we going to do tonight?" And then be like, "I don't know. This sucks." Right? So that's when we started putting together events. I've been a promoter, so I knew how to organize events, promote them on social media. And just started lining up like things that would get me out of the house on the weekend, that wouldn't cause me to make mistakes. Because I just wanted something to look forward to.
Yeah.
You know, I was working hard all week. I'm like, I just wanted something to look forward to. And, you know, at first, literally 2-3 people would show up to my movie night, or, you know, we did so many different things early on. But over time, the group began to grow, and it was, again, it was all based around fun without regrets. I still want to have fun. I just don't want to feel guilty on Monday. And as the group began to grow, right around that time I was doing a lot of volunteering through my church. I was liking myself again. And I thought, man, I have friends that need to be healed this way, but they won't come to my church coat drive. So I started looking for worthwhile causes, Billy and I, and when we found something, we would promote those in the same way we promoted a social event. And people jumped right on it. And what I realized was people want to serve. They just aren't given the opportunity. A lot of times they don't know how, you know, and I think back to my own side. I wanted to volunteer for years before I rededicated.
Yeah.
And I was only able to do it through a church. The problem I see is 82% of the population in the United States doesn't go to church.
Yeah.
So how are they getting into volunteering?
Yeah.
You know, unless they work for a big corporation, nobody's lining it up for you.
Yeah.
Right? So what we come along and do is we do fun, you know, social events. A portion of the money goes to a local nonprofit.
Yeah.
We raise awareness for that nonprofit during the social event. We mention it, and then we recruit manpower to go out and volunteer together for it, like a week or two later. And what I've seen happen is when you give people opportunities to socialize in a healthy setting, give back of themselves, they change. We don't even volunteer because we're trying to fix the problems necessarily. We're trying to change people,
Yeah.
you know, and you see them change, and they get off of drugs, and they get off of, like I said, you know, met with some people this past week, about the opioid epidemic, and this is the answer. The answer is community.
Yeah.
All you have to do is get people into relationships, because as humans, we're meant to connect with each other.
Yeah.
And when you don't connect with another person, you'll connect with something else. It could be drugs, alcohol, sex, porn, gambling, social media. You'll connect with something. But when you give them community, that thing loosens its grip.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you know, there's a girl in the group that you met already, actually, and she was on 5 different prescription meds when she came to the group because she just didn't have healthy friendships. So, you know, you're trying to mask this depression and all this other stuff that you're going through. And then when you get friends, you're like, you don't need it, you know? So for us, that's what City Fam is. It's really about becoming the best version of yourself and enjoying the process. Because, you know, you have to make a lot of right decisions. It's discipline, you know? But if you have that community around you that, you know, you ever go to the gym with somebody, you know what it's like. It's easier when you got a training partner, right? You know, because misery loves company. I mean, not really misery, but you know what I'm saying. It becomes easier when other people are going through it with you. And that's kind of what we believe City Fam is like. To answer your question, our long-term vision for it is we want to continue building it out here. We feel like we're getting close to completing what, you know, we believe is going to, you know, should look like. And then we want to create a lot of content on social media and put it out and find people, because we know there's people like us everywhere, all over the country. And I know that people are going to listen to this podcast and they're going to be like, holy crap, man, that resonates with me. And some of them will want to do this. And we're going to say, look, we're going to show you how, and you start one.
There you go.
And, you know, it's making big changes in people's lives here in Baltimore, and we believe that we're onto something special, and it has the potential to, you know, reach a lot of people. Help, you know, millions. Honestly, I believe that.
Dude, I can see it, man. And we were saying when we listened to another podcast, we were like I want a City Fam. You know, I want to start something because it's hard to. I think some Christian communities, you become part of a community and you feel like you don't add up, or you feel like there's this. They're looking at you like you know, I don't know. It's just not a lot of vulnerability or accountability or transparency in those groups, because everyone is just like, you know, I've lived this holy life and I've dotted all my I's and crossed all my T's. But when you get with a group of people who are like, I've messed up and here's where you can end up. Like your deliverance, you're getting out of this, your habit, it's possible. You just need to have that community of people who are holding you accountable, who's getting you out of your house. And man, I think City Fam is great. And I'm glad that you had that God put that on your heart to start something like that for people who are just, you know, like you in the house renting movies. Like, this is the worst thing ever. And then eventually you get tired of that and you slip up
and you backslide. Yeah,
man.
And just to make sure that everybody listens, City Fam's not faith-based.
Oh, right. Sorry.
I think I might have mentioned that, but I just want to put it out there. And that really is the beauty for us, because it keeps the front door open. So we have atheists in leadership. We don't care if you're Muslim. We don't care what you are. We just want to help each other become the best version of ourselves. And we want to help some people in our community. Now, a lot of people do meet the Lord in the organization, and that's, you know, for me, that's a huge win, obviously, because He changed my life. but it's not a prerequisite by
Gotcha.
any stretch, and it just creates. It's Matthew's house, in
Yeah.
my opinion. It just creates a great dynamic for people to experience it and to see it modeled,
Yeah.
and then if they decide to go that route, great, because it's only going to accelerate the process.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Yeah, man, that's awesome. And I'm sorry, man. I feel like I'm cutting you off.
No, go for
When
it.
we were
You
talking
guys
up
go.
here, you mentioned like a ladder. Can you like explain what you meant in that ladder
Yeah.
concept?
So for us, I draw the ladder out, and at the top of the ladder is fulfillment.
Yeah.
It's you becoming the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
Just reaching your full potential, living your purpose, waking up and in the mornings excited.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody wants that.
Yeah.
So what we look at is if you look at the bottom of the ladder, and honestly, I was at that bottom of the ladder.
Yeah.
Where I wasn't excited about life, wasn't living my purpose. I just was not the best version of myself.
Yeah.
But in order for you to get to that place of fulfillment, you can't do it without what we believe is on the third rung is community.
Yeah.
Right? A group of people to come around you, inspire you, encourage you, and support you.
Yeah.
Because it's going to take a series of right decisions for you to get to that place,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And if you don't have community, you will get depressed, get on Tinder, you'll
Yeah.
drink, you'll use, you'll
Yeah.
do whatever your thing is.
Mhm.
Because again, we're meant to connect. So, but if you have a cheering section to support you as you do it, you make it,
Yeah.
or at least you have a really good chance of making
Yeah.
it. Now, what most healthy communities where we fail,
Yeah.
and the church is the worst at this,
Yeah.
is we ask people to take a big first step from the bottom of the ladder to the third rung.
Yeah.
And I try to get my friends to come up because
Yeah.
I was being impacted by the positive decisions
Mm.
and the healthy community, and I was like, guys, come to church with me. This is awesome, and they didn't come.
Yeah.
Right, because they had all the preconceived notions of what it was like.
Mhm.
They thought God hated them.
Yeah.
They didn't know how to dress, words
Right.
of the songs, whatever it was. They didn't come.
Yeah.
But what I realized was I can get them to a social. First off, I'm bored,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I got an itch. I
Yeah.
got a scratch. So,
Yeah.
so I'm going to do this social event, and I
Yeah.
can get them there. I
Yeah.
can get them to the bar, the
Yeah.
amusement park, the sporting event, wherever, and I can get my friends that are making good decisions. A lot of them are in church or recovery or wherever they're at. I can get them to come to that social event because they're bored.
Yeah.
And when the two people meet, when the person comes up the ladder and they meet the person that's got their act together, they always say the same thing. Everybody's so nice. And you're like, yeah, they really are. Because the culture of the church, or even AA or whatever you consider healthy community, is what can I do for you?
Yeah.
That's the culture
Yeah.
of any healthy community. The culture of the world, where everybody comes out of, especially the bar scene, is
Yeah.
what can I get from you?
Yeah.
Right? So when they come up and they feel, what can I do for you? They feel that love.
Yeah.
Man, they love it. It's like you get a drink after you came through the desert. You're like,
Yeah.
wow, that's refreshing.
Yeah.
And then we go, take them a further step, and we're like, we're going to go do this thing in the community. We're going to go feed these homeless people. We're going to go to Ronald McDonald House and and spend time with kids with disabilities. And they're like, man, I've always wanted to do something like that. I just didn't know how to get started.
Yeah.
They're like, great, sign up. We're going next week. Boom. They take another step and they feel different
Yeah.
about themselves. Now they feel good about something that they did positive versus feeling good about a substance or
Yeah.
something, sex or whatever they're using to mask that pain.
Yeah.
And then they form some healthy relationships, and you'll see them take that third step and join the community now, and that's where the magic happens. And they walk
Yeah.
right up, and their whole life changes. And then guess what? We have them. We're working on something now where you'll be an ambassador.
Okay.
And once you're at the top of the ladder, now you are responsible for being a friend of that person that takes that first step. Almost like when you go to AA,
Gotcha.
you get a sponsor,
Yeah.
somebody that's gotten sober that will walk with you. We
Yeah.
want to make the people at the top of the ladder become ambassadors, and all they're really going to do is love them.
Yeah.
Walk with them. You might have to pick them up for the social event. You might
Yeah.
have to pay for their movie. You might
Yeah.
have to drive them to the volunteer event. But
Yeah.
eventually, as they start to change, they become an ambassador, and this becomes a virtuous circle,
Yeah.
or a virtuous cycle rather.
Yeah.
And over time, we can make huge changes to the world because every time somebody reaches the top of the ladder, you got one less person making problems,
Yeah.
and one more person fixing problems.
Right.
And if we continue to do that over time, things start to change.
Yeah, man.
So for us, we're very excited.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I just think it's so important to have community.
Yeah.
Like you said. And not necessarily, I think, as, I know you said yours is not faith-based, but as Christians, we try to make everything Christian. and then we try to expect people to come in to that.
It's exclusive.
And yeah, it's very exclusive, but in having it as a non-Christian organization, you're bringing people in and really opening them up to, you know, the ideals and the beliefs, but just in serving in community, and that's so important. And really, you're talking about this ladder and how the people on the top are coming back down and bringing the people back up with them. And I mean, again, it's just, I think about the Great Commission with making disciples, and you're just doing it a different way with community, but you're modeling it and kind of reflecting this biblical view of it, and that's so important.
Yeah,
that's so important.
It's all him.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's all his idea.
It's really cool. It's awesome to see.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but
yeah. No, I mean, just walking alongside and having that community, because I think it not being faith-based, it helps really reach those people who have experienced church hurt, like people who were in the church or they grew up in the church. And I know people don't like the term church hurt because you can get hurt anywhere, but like people who may have had a bad experience in the church, right? And so if you come off like City Fam is this faith-based organization, and we're going to try to get you, you know, that may turn them away. So like, you know what I mean? I feel like you guys are doing a great job, but because I feel like you're going to beat me over the head with the Bible, I'm not here for that. But if you just get people out, like you said, to a social event, and they see your passion about this program and about serving others, and then you start to build that relationship, and then they're like, all right, so you go to this church. Okay, can I come to church with you? Like, it's like that just natural, bearing natural fruit, you know what I mean? Instead of forcing them and making them feel like it's something they have to do or they have to kind of believe.
Yes, very, very natural. You know, Andy Stanley says, I love his whole outlook where he talks about creating churches that unchurched people love to attend.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like, I can't control when they fall in love with Jesus.
Yeah.
But I can set up a date.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
so
good.
look, you know, Jesus said, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there I am.
Yes,
so
sir.
often we think, God, I got to get them to church.
Yeah.
But listen, if we are hanging out in a bar,
Yeah.
he's
I
there.
mean, there's 3 of us right here.
He's right here.
Yeah.
Right here. Yeah. So look,
Yeah.
come hang out. Maybe you'll meet him. I don't know. He's there.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's like somebody asked me not long ago, like, when was the last time you shared your faith? I'm like, I don't know what you mean. Like, I don't do a bridge illustration on the napkin. I tried that before. Actually, it was super weird.
Oh wow.
Now, but no,
Never heard of a bridge
yeah,
illustration.
you got the bridge with the separation. Anyway,
Yeah.
but I'm just like, I just kind of live, and then if people, you know, if they want to come, they can. But it's so organic, you know. If it does happen, that you know, it's special. Like I believe it's the Holy Spirit, and maybe that's the way it was supposed to be done. But yeah,
I'm with you, man. I absolutely think we just plant those small seeds, and the Spirit's going to water it. The Spirit's going to do what He does in His time, and that's just how it is.
Yeah, I love it. So what's been like some of the results from City Fam that you've seen that you didn't quite expect, but you know that you see it's being some of the most impactful things?
well, I mean, obviously the vision's grown over time. I didn't think it was this big, or you know, I kind of liken a vision to, you know, just a speck when you when you first head out to where you don't even know what's there. You just head out, let's say, to the horizon, and you can't even see anything. And as you walk, you maybe see a little something, and as you get closer and you keep walking, it becomes bigger and it becomes clearer. The key is to keep walking, you know, and not to get diverted, because the enemy's going to try to take you out in any way that he can. So it's bigger. It's definitely bigger and clearer than I've ever imagined. You know, I mean, I get a lot of posts on social media about people that talk about it and how it's positive. Like it's the thing that they, you know, the home that they've been looking for that wasn't there, you know. And I don't know what I can say is unexpected. I mean, I didn't expect it to be, you know, I believe it is the thing that's going to solve the opioid epidemic, or even just the drug crisis in general. I believe it's going to impact millions of people's lives. That wasn't something that I thought, you know, I just wanted to hang out in the beginning. I just was looking for something, honestly, kind of for selfish reasons, because I was bored.
Yeah.
But it's really turned into something much bigger and better than I ever thought. The last thing I'd like to mention actually to tell you guys about is a thing. So the last piece of the puzzle for us really is a place called Home. So we want to open a bar in the area, and it's going to be a coffee shop by day and a bar by night, but not a bar like any other bar in the world, which is why we call it Home, because there's no place like home. Literally, there really is no place like Home in the world.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a place, and I think I guess came up with the idea for when I first got saved. The first 6 years I went through, I was looking for a place like this, and it just wasn't out there. I still drank, you know, and I just wanted to be around some people and some girls or whatever. But we want to have, coffee by day, kava. I don't know if you know about kava. It's like this, herbal drink that people use when they have these different kava bars in Hawaii.
Oh, okay.
Basically, instead of drinking alcohol, people drink kava. It doesn't give you any hangovers. It's not bad for you. But we want to have kava. We want to have smoothies, other things. But we also want to serve beer, wine, herbal elixirs, like some non-alcoholic edgy drinks, and maybe even we will have actually alcohol in one part of the bar. But we envision it to a place. First, it'll be a hub for City Fam, for members to get together and meet, because we don't have events every night, but we want a place that people can come and build relationships. Sometimes you're going through something, and if you're going to act out, it's good to have that as an option. But a bar that you could get sober in if you hung out long enough over time. Because it's that thing, maybe if alcohol is the thing that has a grip on you, but when you get community, it loosens. But it's not this crash, wreck your life and then get sober and white knuckle it. Hey, come here. We don't care if you drink, but if you hang out long enough, you won't want to. Even though we're not a sober group, we do see people get sober, because City Fam's about becoming the best version of yourself and removing anything that's an obstacle from that. So if it is alcohol, take a look at it. But we want to open a place like that, a place of community. Will facilitate a lot of volunteer events out of there. It'll have live music on the weekends, cover bands, but then maybe Wednesday we have Jeremy Camp come in. So it won't be necessarily a Christian bar per se, because again that would be exclusive, but it will be a place that believers would like. So people in the program would like, but also a great place to bring your friends that just that need a place like that you can't get to go to recovery, or you can't get to go to church, but they would go to a bar. And once they're there, that's when the magic happens. So we want to open that. We're hoping later this year, maybe even in fall. And we really believe that when that's built, and people come to Baltimore to come to a City Fam event, maybe they live in Lynchburg or Lebanon, Pennsylvania, or wherever, and they see the group, they experience an event, they go to Home, they're going to be like, there needs to be one of these in my town. And then we say, great, build out City Fam. When the database is big enough, we're going to open one. And then we open them. And it's going to be a place to become the best, a social place to become the best version of yourself. And we really believe it's something different. So that's very exciting for us.
That's awesome. And you said you guys are getting close to that point where you really, wanted to see it get to. Do you have plans on expanding to other cities at this point?
We would love to. I think, from the very beginning, that was the goal. It's been hard because we haven't had resources. It's hard, we don't charge a lot for our events. And it's hard to get even donors or people to support, because they look at it and they're like, it looks like a social group. If you look at the website, it looks just like fun, and intentionally so, because if we made it, you know what I mean? If we made like, hey, we're trying to change your life, you know what I mean? Like, then it's like no one would come, because those places already exist. If anybody wants, they go to NA, they got it. If they want to go to church, they can go there. This is something like, let's just make it fun. And this way it attracts people, because they just like, I want a social life. And then they come, and then it starts to happen. So for us, it's been hard to attract resources, but we have been doing a better job of it lately. And we would love to actually start planning them like now. We do have a City Fam in Hartford, Cecil County, which is about 45 minutes away. That's starting to do events, and we want to we want to in every major city of America, if not the world. That's awesome. we want to make it very easy for people to start.
Yeah.
It just really is it's not even money that requires, it's just work. You just got to be willing to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're willing to do it, then you can build something really special. We'll show you. I mean, we just want to change people's lives.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
And Christians can have fun. You know what I mean? Your life doesn't stop when you accept Christ, right? You can have good, clean fun.
Better.
You can have
More
man.
fun.
Right. Like you said, you said fun without regrets, right?
Yes.
Dude, like that's the life. That's the Christian life. And I think some people are like, you have to stay home and you have to just only stick with this small group and stay in a bubble. No, man. Like people are out there hungry for the things that you're providing.
Here's the punchline: Charlie Sheen. Is he having fun?
Right.
You know, because that's
Yeah.
he followed that path.
Yeah.
And that's where it takes you.
Yeah.
That is not fun. It
Yeah.
might be fun in the moment for a little while,
Yeah.
but guess what? After a while, it ain't fun no more.
That's
Yeah.
Esau soup for you.
That's
exactly.
man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So I guess my final question would be, so when are you coming to Lebanon? Yeah, that'd be awesome.
For us, it's always been
Yeah.
about the people. We're like, look, when God raises up the people, that's when we go. Because it really, we can't decide. We thought before, we're like, yeah, we'd like to be in D.C. or Philly because they're close.
Yeah.
Hartford County is what
Yeah.
popped up because we had a person that said, man, I believe in this, and they'll do it. So when God raises up the people that will build this thing,
Yeah.
then that's where we go. And Lebanon would be a great
Yeah,
third spot.
yeah.
I love that.
But yeah. Oh, when is the book coming out?
So spring of 2018 is what the website says, and so I have to be true to that promise. I still have 2 months left, but I think it's going to be done in the next probably 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
I'm just, still fleshing out a little ideas, polishing it a bit, but yeah, very soon.
Okay.
So
Well, we're looking forward to the release of it.
Yeah. Man.
We'll be helping to promote as
Thank
much
you.
as we can.
Yeah, for sure.
I got some blogs up on robkowalski.com. It's Rob B. Kowalski, so 2 B's, .com, and I just posted a new one the other day. So a lot of excerpts from the book and the blog,
Okay.
and just you'll get my style. I probably, some people have said I posted too much in the blog, so that's in the book. But I do want to give away just as much because I want to make people think. And I really want to challenge the culture because it's so prevalent what we're in. Right now that we're fighting an uphill battle trying to convince people that this is a different way to go about it. And really, delayed gratification was one of the blogs I posted, and I challenge people that it's like name one thing where instant gratification gives you long-term happiness in anything in the world.
Yeah.
You can't even think of one. It's delayed gratification. We know it works when it comes to saving money, working out, all the other things.
Yeah.
We want to pretend like, oh, not with sex.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. It's true. It's true. So people can check out the blog, and if they want to pick up a copy, obviously whywaitingworks.com.
Yeah. So robbkowalski.com. Where can they find you on social media?
So Facebook, same /Rob B. Kowalski, same with Instagram, and then Twitter, which I don't use that well. RB Kowalski 1, I think it is.
And then CityFam?
Yeah, cityfam.com. If they can follow us. They join the fam. It's free. If somebody wants to find out more information about starting a chapter, we'd love to give it to you. We really believe that we're going to do something cool.
Dude, I believe it too.
Before he comes back.
Yes, yeah, man. Yeah. Well, all right, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We're really glad to be here in Baltimore.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us down. It was awesome.
Yeah, man.
This is awesome.
Interviewing
Yeah,
you.
thoroughly.
Yeah, guys. So again, hit up Rob. Make sure you you order the book and go through City Fan and see if there's something that you need in your community. And as always, you can find us at Men of Means with a Z on Instagram and Twitter. You can find us on Facebook, Men of Means Podcast. We write for Ascending Thoughts, so that's Ascending Thoughts blog. WordPress.com. And we on Ramp Radio every Friday at 6 p.m. Guys, we love you, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Awesome, man.
Dude,
I love
that
it.
was money, man. That was money. That was money.
That's good.
Oh,
Thank you. I
wow.
love it.
Good job, guys.
There it is.
Do we have anybody watching?
Great, guys.
There's
Yeah.
A couple people. Mina. Mina's on.
Oh, cool.
Hey, what's up? Scott Coppinger. A couple people watching.
Yeah?
Yeah. Anyway, guys, I'm out.
Went really good.